For years, heroin has held the infamous title as kind of being the worst of the hard drugs, the worst at causing overdoses, the worst at causing deaths. Until fentanyl heard about that and they said, hey, hold my beer. My name is Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you are watching Lawyer Up. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at addiction, and specifically, we're going to take a look at that through the lens of heroin addiction and fentanyl addiction, and we're also going to take a look at some of the treatment options that are out there to help people who are afflicted with being addicted to illegal substances. We're also going to take a look at some of the medical options that are out there to help people who are addicted to heroin and similar substances. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you have a problem with a drug or alcohol addiction, you can dial 1-800-662-HELP. That is 1-800-662-4357 with help for your addiction. Now, when we're talking about addiction, as I mentioned, we're going to do it through the lens of heroin and fentanyl. Now, the opium family of drugs, and that's your codeine, that's your morphine, that's your thebaine. Those are arguably the most addictive family of drugs. And we know that heroin is produced from morphine. And we know that we get our oxycodones and our hydrocodones. Those come from the thebaine that's found within the opium or the poppy seed plant. And it's this group of drugs, the heroin, the fentanyl, the pain pills, that creates the most addiction problems that we see here in the United States. Now, I am no expert on addiction or addiction treatment. I see it a lot in the criminal cases that I handle. In almost every case that involves drugs, there is some sort of a rehabilitative effort or element to the plea agreement or the sentence where that person has to go through some sort of addiction treatment. So I see it a lot, but I'm certainly no expert on treating it. But when we're talking about addiction and opium, for example, when we're talking about the human brain, we have opioid receptors in there, which give off a euphoric feeling when they are stimulated. Our body's opioid receptors really like opium to be placed in them. Now, when you ingest this opium, it replaces the body's production of natural endorphins. And the problem is that the human body or the brain gets used to having these opioids or this opium in it. And it builds up a tolerance to the opium really quickly. The net effect of this is that you have to take a little bit more every time to get that euphoric feeling or the high that's associated with taking opium products. Now, as your body gets used to having opium in it, and your body is also slowing down its natural production of endorphins, when that leaves your system, it has very negative effects on the human body. These are the withdrawal effects that people feel when they don't have the opium in their system. And we know that opium has terrible withdrawal effects, nausea, vomiting, intense body aches, intense muscle spasms in some cases. In fact, that's where the term kick the habit comes from people trying to get off of heroin. Involuntary leg spasms in some instances. It's been described to me, these withdrawal symptoms, as like having the flu times 10. Really bad. People get really sick. In fact, I have had clients who told me that they were using heroin 3 and 4 times a day, not to get high, just to stay level. To get off sick, as they say, to keep from being sick. They were using heroin routinely just to maintain the level. So the more opium you take, and this could be heroin, this could be pain pills, whatever it is, the higher the tolerance levels in your body become. And the higher the tolerance level in your body, the greater the withdrawal symptoms whenever you don't have that opium in your system. And this creates a vicious cycle that people get trapped in their addiction. Now, there are basically 2 ways you can go when you get addicted to heroin and or pain pills. And the drug cartels have one option, that is to increase the potency of the opium that you're taking. a la fentanyl. Juxtaposed to that is the medical community that says, no, wait a minute, we need to substitute the substance, and they usually use methadone or Suboxone. We'll talk about those here in a minute to stave off the sickness symptoms while you're hopefully able to get off of the drug that you're taking. Now, when we're talking about fentanyl, and in some places in the country they call it fentanyl, it just depends on where you are, but drug cartels have been mixing fentanyl in with heroin and other drugs to increase its potency. And heroin is pretty potent in and of itself. Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin. Let me say that again. 50 times more potent than heroin. It is a nasty, nasty drug that has killed many, many people. Now, a popular name for fentanyl on the street is China White, and that can refer to pure fentanyl or any other drug that might have some fentanyl mixed in with it. Now, fentanyl was originally used in pain treatment, and it still is, in the form of a long-term, slow-release patch that's worn on the body. Now, the full dosage that comes in these patches would be enough to kill almost anybody, but the slow release makes it a better pain management tool than, say, morphine. Paul Janssen with Janssen Pharmaceuticals actually introduced the world back in 1960 to the pain management benefits of fentanyl. And since 1990, you could get a prescription for these, they're called transdermal patches that contain fentanyl for long-term slow relief pain management. Now, once people realized the potency of fentanyl, they started extracting it from these transdermal patches. And there's lots of different ways they do this. We're not going to go into it in this video. It all falls into a big bucket called diversion techniques, and it's just techniques to basically isolate the fentanyl out of the patch. Now, it doesn't go on as much as it used to because you can get fentanyl from China or Mexico and just buy it direct. A lot of times you can just order it and have it sent through the mail. It's so potent that it requires so little of it that it can be sent through the mail a lot of times in a regular envelope. But fentanyl is killing people in large numbers. When you get a drug, you don't know how much fentanyl is in it. And we tell you on this channel, definitely don't use heroin. And in and of itself, that's good advice, but it's even better advice because right now, you don't know how much fentanyl is being laced in the drugs that are out there. Now, we also talked about another method. The drug cartels say, well, if you need more potent heroin, we'll give you this product with fentanyl in it. The medical community says, whoa, wait a minute. We need to get you off of the drug. We need to substitute something that will allow yourselves to basically not get sick, but to wean yourself from the addiction to the opium. Now, the primary drug used to do this is methadone, and you've probably heard of methadone clinics where people can go in and they can take methadone. Essentially, it is a opioid antagonist, so it fills the opioid receptor and keeps you from getting sick without getting you high, or at least that's the idea. Now, you can get addicted to methadone as well, obviously, but most people use it to step down from heroin. And from there, they usually prescribe Suboxone, which is less potent than methadone and doesn't require you to go into a clinic. And it's pills that you can take at home to complete the process of weaning you from your opioid or opium addiction. And last but not least, I will mention the naloxone or the Narcan. This is the medication that is used to counter the effects of an opioid overdose, a heroin overdose, or a fentanyl overdose. Narcan is carried by a lot of law enforcement officers, medical professionals, even heroin users in their communities are encouraging people that use the drug to have Narcan on hand in case it's needed to save a life. Well, that's the episode on addiction and fentanyl. There are several other videos on this channel that talk about the history of heroin, the history of opium, and the history of several other drugs. If you are interested in that type of narco entertainment, those videos are available to you. But if you're one of those individuals that is struggling with addiction, I would encourage you to get help. Again, the national hotline number for help is 1-800-662-HELP, 1-800-662-4357. I thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Again, my name is Joshua Roberts, and you've been watching lawyer up.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this.